Tonight, the National Peace Committee meets with presidential candidates of political parties in Abuja, raises concern over what it describes as violations of recent peace accord by some of the parties. Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Otti takes his campaign to Jos, promises to restore the industrial potential of Plateau State and ensure farmers return to their farms. Wife of the PDP presidential candidate, Mrs. Titi Abubakar, urges women in Ogun State to vote for the PDP flag bearer to ensure a better future for them and their children.
On business news tonight, federal government denies approving any increase in the official pump price of petrol as scarcity of product bites harder across the country.
On sports news tonight, Sebastian Korda stuns former world #1 Daniil Medvedev in a thrilling contest to evict the losing finalist of the last 2 years from the Australian Open.
And from the nation's capital, the Supreme Court restores former Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, Mr. Godswill Akpabio, as the APC candidate for Akwa Ibom North Senatorial District ahead of the elections.
And in international news from London, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz is facing mounting pressure to export its highly regarded Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine.
It's exactly 5 weeks to the general election, and as political campaigns gather momentum, the National Peace Committee is concerned about infractions to the peace accord and the build-up to the polls. And for this reason, members of the committee have been meeting with the presidential candidates, INEC, the police and the civil society in the nation's capital with a view to reaching a common ground towards ensuring a hitch-free exercise. Well, after the meeting at the Transcorp Hilton, a member of the committee and chairman Channels Media Group, Dr. John Momo, was nominated by the committee to address the media on the outcome.
Chairman did say that at the next meeting that we hope that they would have resolved their differences. It was not going to be palatable or presentable for two persons to represent the party, because each party is being represented by one person. And of course there's an internal problem within the party. So the advice for them is that they should go and resolve their differences. And by the next meeting, which will be in the 18th of February, when the second signing ceremony will take place, then one of them, who will be the main representative of the party, will then have the opportunity to speak and to sign. I think some of the parties have been fingered, particularly the supporters and some of the spokesmen. What the chairman is saying and what the Peace Committee is saying is that you could focus on issues instead of being personality-based, and instead of insulting one another, instead of name callings, and instead of trying to bring people to disrepute. And I think that sank. It went well with most of them, but you know, we'll wait and see. But at the end of the day, I think that there's need for more interaction amongst the political party representatives, because this will help. Or once we Georgia and continue to talk, then we'll be able to see where we need to work on and how things can shape out properly. I don't think we're really satisfied in the main. It's work in progress. There's bound to be some disagreements, and there's bound to be some differences, and tempers are bound to flare up. But at the end of the day, we disagree to agree, and that's what we're trying to strive at.
To the campaigns now, the wife of the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Mrs. Titi Abubakar, is calling on women across Ogun State to vote for the PDP in next month's presidential election. Mrs. Abubakar, at a town hall with women in the state, also appealed to them to ensure they collect their PVCs and vote for her husband to eradicate poverty, insecurity, and guarantee a better future for them and their children. The meeting had in attendance women from different groups across the state at the Chief Olusegun Obasanjo Library in Abeokuta, the state capital.
These are women from different groups and traders associations. They are at the Olusegun Obasanjo Library in Abeokuta to meet with the wife of the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party. These gaily dressed women have put aside their daily businesses and activities to hear the message of Mrs. Titi Atiku Abubakar, who is visiting to mobilize supporters for the presidential candidate as well as the governorship candidate of the party in Ogun State. The PDP chairman in Ogun State sets the tone for the meeting by reminding the women of the failed promises of the ruling party, saying this is the time to rewrite the wrongs of the past.
I want to officially welcome the incoming First Lady in Nigeria to Ogun State. Like I said earlier, Ogun State is known to be the most sophisticated state, the most outstanding state in Nigeria, and very loyal when it comes to loyalty.
Lending her voice to the views expressed by the chairman, wife of the PDP governorship candidate in Ogun State, Adenike Adebutu, urges the women not to miss the opportunity of making a change in the forthcoming election by voting in the People's Democratic Party.
I want to especially welcome our mama, our great mother. It's exactly 4 years ago you were here. We thank God for your life, ma'am. The grace of God, come this year, May 29, we all shall have cause to glorify God. Please tell them to go collect their PVC. It is very important. That is our power. That is our right.
More powers and resources.
Poverty alleviation, ensuring security and youth employment are some of the promises the PDP presidential candidate is bringing to the table. And his wife says Atiku Abubakar can be trusted on account of these promises.
It is only women that know the pain of a woman. I know your pain. I know how you feel. The economy is bad. Everything is bad. There is insecurity. There is our children at home. They spend almost 8 months at home without school. And you know what that means. The girls, they have gone, many of them got pregnant during the time. Many of them were being trafficked. That is what I'm doing. And many of the boys, many today are into Yahoo. I am going to educate your children. Just the way I have educated mine. I want your children to be like my children. If Nigeria is a better place for us, there will be no all this Yahoo. Our children will not be on the street begging. Our children will not be on the street prostituting. So my women, I engage you, I implore you, that you vote Atiku, you vote out poverty.
Come February the 25th, 2023, the presidential elections will hold across the country. And for these women, their votes will not only go to the PDP, they say they're prepared to mobilize other people of voting age to ensure victory for the PDP.
And in Rivers State, Governor Nyesom Wike has distanced his government and the People's Democratic Party in the state from the reported explosion at an All Progressives Congress campaign rally in Port Harcourt, the state capital, yesterday. Governor Wike instead blamed the incident on the APC, saying the party rented the venue from a factional group in the community, which resulted in a clash with another group. Governor Wike was speaking at a campaign rally by the People's Democratic Party in Oyigbo local government area of the state, where he also threatens to stop the use of a stadium by the PDP Presidential Campaign Council if it fails to follow the rules.
It's the turn of Oyigbo local government area as the People's Democratic Party in Rivers State takes its campaign to the River Southeast Senatorial District. Beyond the appreciation for the provision of infrastructure by the Nyesom Wike administration, this rally is more like a homecoming reception for the party's governorship candidate who hails from the senatorial district. He mounts the stage to unveil his program.
We will give you good business environment. Those Aba people that are here will come here and establish small-scale industries. What is development?
The basic of development, go and find out anywhere in the world, is laying a good foundation. And that foundation has to do with infrastructural development. We are giving it now.
Also on hand to address the crowd is Governor Nyesom Wike, who seizes the moment to react to the explosion that rocked the venue of a rally by the opposition All Progressives Congress on Thursday.
If you know you are not prepared for election, go home and rest. We are prepared for election, and we know we are going to win this election. So we are not giving excuses at all.
He also has a message for the Presidential Campaign Council of the People's Democratic Party in Rivers State.
We cannot give you access to the stadium now. We can only give you stadium 2 days to the occasion for you to prepare. Nobody gave you stadium 1 month. So if you dare it again to go and force yourself to the stadium, I will cancel the approval with immediate effect. Dare it again, I will cancel it. Heaven will not fall. No way. In fact, when heaven falls now, we'll be happy that at our time, heaven came down.
Here, the Rivers PDP moves to the next local government area, where it hopes to intensify its campaign ahead of the elections.
The governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress in the state, Mr. Tonya Cole, has been speaking on the reported explosion during the party's rally in Port Harcourt yesterday. Mr. Cole explains that no amount of gun threat or violence will stop the party's campaigns in the state. He was a guest on our program, Politics Today.
One thing, there was a device that was blown. And that device might be dynamite, might be an IED, but there was a device that was blown. And there was gunshots, which usually when you have that, people begin to scatter, because once you hear gunshots, you don't know where it's coming from. And what was planned was for people to begin to run, and so that there can be maximum damage, and you suspend the rally. And we say this must end. We have to be known for the ideas that we have to be known for what we are bringing to the people, and we have to be known for a different type of campaign. And I am going to continue to campaign differently, to speak differently, and do things differently. No more guns, no more bombs, and none of this violence. We have to be known for something different. All we are saying is that we need to have the freedom to speak to our people and allow them to come out and vote. Rivers State has been characterized by violence for too long. And this time around, we're saying that enough is enough.
In part 2, after the break, more rallies by political parties. Plus, the Supreme Court restores former Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, Senator Godswill Akpabio, as an APC candidate for Akwa Ibom North Senatorial District. But that's in a moment. Do stay with us. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, live on Channels Television. A reminder of our main stories. The National Peace Committee meets with presidential candidates of political parties in the nation's capital, Abuja, raises concern over what it describes as violations of recent peace accord by some of the parties. Labour Party presidential candidate Mr. Peter Obi takes his campaign to Jos, promises to restore the industrial potential of Plateau State and ensure farmers return to their farms. Wife of the PDP presidential candidate, Mrs. Titi Abubakar, urges women in Ogun State to vote for the PDP flag bearer to ensure a better future for their children. And German Chancellor Olaf Scholz is facing mounting pressure to export its highly regarded Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine. Staying with the campaigns, Jos, the Plateau State capital, today hosted the campaign rally of the Labour Party presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi. At the Rangpam Township Stadium, Mr. Obi assured the people that farmers will soon go back to their farms, as insecurity will be a thing of the past if he's elected president next month. He adds that he will restore Jos, the state capital, to its glory days when it was a hub for cash crops and major industrial factories.
Mr. Peter Obi arrives the Yakubu Gowon Airport in Plateau State in continuation of his campaign tour. Mr. Obi decries the level of unemployment and poverty in the country and promises to fix it from day one.
We have become the capital of poverty in the world, capital of youth unemployment, capital of insecurity, capital of out-of-school children, capital of where people don't have what to eat. That is what Daddy and I want to change. We want to build a new Nigeria. A new Nigeria is possible. With you, we are going to build a new Nigeria.
His running mate appeals to the people to vote for the party, pledging to bring the country together and heal its wounds.
I hear for those people who are trying to bring an end to insecurity, and I see it in your faces. The day you hear this sentence, go and write it. The day you hear President Peter Obi of Nigeria, from that day, we shall stop the killing and start the healing. Once you hear President Peter Obi of Nigeria, we have stopped the stealing and we will start giving. From that day, we will start healing Nigeria. From that day, we will stop the slide of our communities and start the climb of our communities.
The campaign train had earlier visited the Gwangwam Jos, His Royal Highness Jacob Gyang, and held a town hall meeting with youths and students, assuring them that only the party's candidates have the competence and character to turn around Nigeria. Dili Omoyeni, Channels Television News.
Well, in neighboring Kaduna State, the governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress in the state, Senator Obasani, has flagged off his campaign in Giwa local government area with a promise to improve on infrastructure and other legacies of current Governor Nasir El-Rufai. He also says human capital development will be top priority for him if he's elected.
Giwa local government area is the first port of call as the All Progressives Congress in Kaduna State kicks off its governorship campaign across the 23 local government areas and 255 electoral wards in the state. Amidst the fanfare, the party's governorship candidate, Senator Obasani, arrives in the company of Governor Nasir El-Rufai, party chieftains, and candidates seeking for various offices in Kaduna Central Zone. Speaking in Hausa language, the party leaders urged the people to vote for Senator Oba and his running mate, Mrs. Hadiza Balarabe.
May God bless you all. It's 132 days to the elections, and we are grateful for your support. Please, we want you to give to Obasani and his deputy Hadiza the same support that you gave to us during our stay. Vote for them because they worked with us and they know our achievements and mistakes. If you vote for them, they will correct our mistakes. And also vote for Baba. He will defend you in Abuja. Go and get your PVC.
The APC governorship candidate pledges to continue from where Governor El-Rufai stopped, especially in revamping education and embarking on rural infrastructure if elected.
We are here with our mentor, our governor, Nasir El-Rufai. We are here to show our appreciation and gratitude for your support. He has been the best governor in the country and will continue the good work he has started by God's grace. So we are pleading with you to vote APC from the top to the bottom. Vote Ahmed Tinubu. Vote APC for governor. Senate, vote APC. In all, vote for APC, and we promise to deliver the best to you. We believe you all will campaign for us.
The party's campaign train is expected to move around the 23 local government areas in the state ahead of the elections as the party hopes to retain the seat at the Sir Kashim Ibrahim House in Kaduna.
Well, elsewhere, the governorship candidate of the Labour Party in Abia State, Mr. Alex Otti, is promising to revive the state's industrial and agricultural sectors to create employment for the youth and women in the state. The Labour Party governorship candidate made the promise during a town hall meeting at the Presbyterian Church in Arachuku, Ohafia local government area. Mr. Otti, who was accompanied by his running mate, his wife and other party faithful, also promised to prioritize pensioners' welfare if elected.
The first port of call for the campaign train of the Abia State Labour Party governorship candidate, Dr. Alex Otti, in Ohafia local government area is the palace of the traditional rulers of Elu and Ebem communities to present his manifesto and seek their support.
Simple English.
According to Dr. Otti, the courtesy visit underscores the critical role that traditional institutions play in social cohesion. The team then proceeds to Ameku, Ohafia for a brief town hall meeting with teachers and representatives of various town unions. Dr. Otti assures the people that if elected, he would pay all outstanding salaries, pensions and gratuities before the end of December 2023.
I'm aware some of you are being owed for 45, 46 months. Okay, I thought it was the 45 months was the largest. Are there people who owed more than? 56. 56 months. Even if it is 70 months, before the end of this year, you will receive all your pay.
Meanwhile, the state party chairman and a House of Representatives candidate believe that Dr. Otti will take Ohafia and Abia State in general to new heights.
We need a technocrat. We need somebody who is resolute. We need somebody who is determined. We need somebody who is also connected both with God and with the people. It is only when we get somebody like this that Abia will move. And I think Dr. Alex has such qualities.
We need someone that understands how to change the dynamics of what is happening. We need a complete paradigm shift. We need someone that knows how to earn and make money, not just spend it. We've only had spent thrifts in office. We need someone that can make the money and change our plight.
The governorship elections are weeks away and the candidates are aggressively selling their ideas to the citizens. For Labour Party and its supporters, Dr. Alex Otti remains the best man for the state's top job.
To party politics, the PDP has suspended former Enugu State Governor Senator Chimaroke Namani and 8 others from Imo and Ekiti states over allegations of anti-party activities. A statement by the PDP National Publicity Secretary, Mr. Debo Ologunagba, lists others, including Chris Ogbu from Imo State, Ayen Funsho and Ajijola Latif, both from Ekiti State, among those suspended by the PDP National Working Committee. In a separate statement, the party also dissolved the Ekiti State Chapter Executive Committee and appointed a caretaker committee headed by Mr. Sadiq Abanoy for 3 months. The PDP has been battling an internal leadership crisis in Ekiti State, which has impacted their outing in the last governorship election in the state. Well, quite a busy day at the courts today with some major judgments. And Terry Kumi is here from our Abuja studios to take us through these stories and more. Good evening, Terry.
Absolutely correct, Coyote. Good evening. Now, to the courts, where it was victory at last for the former Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, Mr. Godswill Akpabio, as the Supreme Court restored him as the APC candidate for Akwa Ibom North Senatorial District. In a lead judgment, Justice Ibrahim Salawa held that the lower court lacked jurisdiction to entertain the case, adding that whatever decision arrived at by the court amounts to nullity. The Apex Court further held that the issue of nomination of a candidate for election borders on the domestic affairs of a political party.
The ambience in this courtroom at the Supreme Court is calm as lawyers and members of the public attend this sitting of the Apex Court to determine the candidate of the All Progressives Congress for Akwa Ibom Northwest Senatorial District. Former Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, Mr. Godswill Akpabio, had filed an appeal challenging the judgment of the Court of Appeal Abuja, which set aside his victory at the Federal High Court Abuja. In a unanimous judgment, The Apex Court held that the Appellate Court lacked the jurisdiction to entertain the case, as the issue of nomination of a candidate for election borders on the domestic affairs of a political party. The court also resolved all the issues formulated by Mr. Akpabio in his favor against the respondent.
Just re-emphasized what the law is, I must tell you, because some of these principles have variously been canvassed in the past, and the Apex Court, they've always had a position on these matters, that a political party has the sole duty of conducting their primaries, especially the National Working Committee of the party, and not a state chapter. This is what has happened. And for us, I think it's a victory for democracy, because we don't have sole candidacy in our system. You must contest an election through the platform of a political party. So at least Godswill Akpabio has the senatorial, the Akwa Ibom Northwest senatorial district, and it's on the ballot.
Well, we didn't expect anything less than what we've heard today. But as a party man, I simply want to say, in today's judgment, there is no victor, there is no vanquish. The party remains a family in Akwa Ibom State. Yes, everybody has the constitutional right to test the court. But today, the highest court of the land has settled all the crises that you've been hearing in Akwa Ibom State in respect of Akwa Ibom Northwest Senatorial District.
The Abuja Division of the Court of Appeal had on November 14, 2022, set aside the judgment of the Federal High Court Abuja, which ordered INEC to reinstate Akpabio as the right candidate of the APC for Akwa Ibom Northwest Senatorial District.
In other legal matters, the spokesperson of the APC Presidential Campaign Council, Festus Keyamo, has instituted a writ of summons in the Federal High Court in Abuja against the presidential candidate of the PDP, Mr. Atiku Abubakar, as first defendant. The Code of Conduct Bureau, the Independent Corrupt Practice and Other Related Offences Commission, as well as the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission as second, third, and fourth defendants. The senior advocate of Nigeria is asking the courts to compel the second, third, and fourth defendants to investigate, invite, or arrest the PDP presidential candidate over corruption allegations relating to a certain bank belonging to a company named Marine Float and other accounts of two undisclosed companies, which information Mr. Keyamo says was divulged to a certain aide by the name Michael Achimogu. In a statement of claims sent to Channels Television, Mr. Keyamo alleges that a whistleblower went public with the claims and avers that he has obtained a certified true copy of the said affidavit, which he hopes will be relied upon in the suit. Some of its contents include how the said documents were allegedly used as special purpose vehicles to secretly divert and misappropriate public funds between 1999 and 2007, when the first defendant served as Vice President of Nigeria. Now, still ahead on the news at 10, federal government denies approving any increase in official pump price of petrol as scarcity of the product bites harder across the country. That's on Business News. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the news at 10. Staying with the Judiciary, Justice Inyangekwo of the Federal High Court Abuja has vacated an interim forfeiture of 40 landed properties granted against former Deputy Senate President Ike Ekweremadu. Justice Ekwo gave the order following a discovery that the forfeiture order was fraudulently obtained by the federal government against the properties. While lifting the order, the judge held that the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, which obtained the order on behalf of the federal government, concealed information that led to granting it. Specifically, Justice Ekwo said the EFCC was fully aware that Ekweremadu was in custody in the United Kingdom and failed to make that vital information available to the court. The judge agreed with the counsel that to Ekweremadu and Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Adegboyega Awomolu, that there was no way the former Deputy President of the Senate would be opportune to defend his ownership of the disputed properties. Justice Ekwo had on November 4 last year issued the interim forfeiture order in favor of the federal government following an ex parte application brought before him by the EFCC. The judge had specifically directed that anyone who had interest in the forfeited properties should indicate within 14 days of the publication of the interim forfeiture order from the court. The former Deputy Senate President and his wife are currently standing trial in the United Kingdom over an alleged organ harvesting. In other stories, the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, has kicked off a 3-day board and management retreat in Uyo, the Akwa Ibom state capital. The retreat, which is aimed at providing a sound footing for the takeoff of the new NDDC governing board, will also chart a new trajectory for the interventionist agency. Declaring the retreat open, the Supervising Minister of NDDC and Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, Mr. Umana, urged the board members and all the participants to take advantage of the program to boost their capacity for the task of developing the region.
2 weeks after the new governing board of the Niger Delta Development Commission assumed duties, the interventionist agency is holding this retreat to prepare them for the task ahead.
For the benefit of a few persons who probably may not know,
present at the events in Uyo, the Akwa Ibom state capital, are the Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, Umana Okon Umana, and members of the NDDC governing board, led by its chairman, Loretta Onoche, as well as directors of the commission. First, the minister gives a charge to the participants in his opening address.
The purpose of this retreat is to provide a template for the board to take off. Therefore, I expect the deliberations during this meeting to focus on and interrogate the following areas in order to enhance the effectiveness of the board in the execution of the mandate of the Commission. These areas include the Establishment Act of the NDDC 2000, the rules of management and the board as provided for in the Establishment Act of the Commission, the Public Procurement Act 2007, all the extant regulations applicable to public governance, any other issue that impacts the performance of the board.
For the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of the Commission, Samuel Ogboko, the board will in the coming days roll out programs on human and capital development for the people of the Niger Delta.
I can assure you that we're interested in carrying out sustainable programs for youth, sustainable development in terms of landmark projects, and also new partnership with the IOCs. Hence, we constituted our PPP committee to also explore other grounds for partnership and development in the Niger Delta.
The retreat later broke into technical sessions with various experts lined up to address diverse topics.
Well, that's all from the nation's capital, and for one last time this week, Coyote, back to you.
Well, thanks a lot, Terry. In the same vein, so to speak, the president is expected to be in Lagos on a 2-day working visit on Monday, January the 23rd, for the commissioning and flag off of some projects by the administration of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu. According to the State Commissioner for Information and Strategy, Mr. Gbenga Motosho, President Muhammadu Buhari will between January the 23rd and 24th commission the Lagos Blue Line Rail Project and the Motar Rice Mill, as well as the Lekki Deep Sea Port, among others. Mr. Motosho was speaking during a press conference at Alausa, Ikeja.
Next week's visit by President Muhammadu Buhari will be one with a difference. It is a visit where Mr. President will again see the beauty of Lagos and take the opportunity to see firsthand and commission the life-changing and people-oriented projects undertaken by the Babajide Sanwo-Olu administration. The projects are the Lekki Deep Sea Port, a symbol of a good working relationship between the public and private sectors. The 32 metric tons per hour Lagos Rice Mill, one of the largest in the world. The 18.75 kilometer 6-lane rigid pavement Eleko Junction to Ekpe Expressway. The John Randu Center for Yoruba Culture and History, and the iconic Lagos Blue Line Rail Project. Mr. President will be commissioning also a private sector project, MRS Lubricant Factory in Apapa.
Well, to energy now, the federal government is re-emphasizing the need to consider embracing gas as an alternative fuel. Well, according to the chairman of the National Gas Expansion Program under the Ministry of Petroleum Resources, Dr. Mohammed Ibrahim, But this will provide cheaper and environmental-friendly fuel in addition to other benefits. He was speaking during an inspection of the Greenville LNG plant in Shagamu, Ogun State, southwest Nigeria.
Queue persists at fuel stations across the country as fallout of the scarcity of PMS. But Greenville LNG considers the fossil fuel option as costly and unsustainable. Following the federal government's optimization of the gas sector and utilization of the country's abundant gas resources, the company is opening yet another plant, its fifth since launch out in 2019, but with plans of raising that number to 42 before the end of next year. The chairman of the National Gas Expansion Program under the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources is here for an on-the-spot assessment of a new plant.
Yeah, when I came in this morning and I see the impressive world-class high technology facility on ground, which will to a very, very large extent and in a fundamental manner alter the cost of energy to motorists in the country, I think I was really impressed. It's truly awesome.
The federal government is upbeat on the fuel on gas as well as how Greenville is playing in that field.
We've been through Greenville initiatives, we've been able to deliver LNG in country for the first time in the economic history of this country. So that dream has been achieved. What now remains is to get a deluge of vehicles converting their current vehicles to running on compressed natural gas, CNG, or liquefied natural gas, which is LNG.
The company says it's excited about how the use of gas, which is cheap and clean, will bring ease to Nigerians.
It will lower the cost of transportation, it will lower the cost of power generation, and it will give a very big fillip to the industrial sector at large.
Greenville says its product is for all engine types, industrial and domestic.
The sector that will be foraying into is the auto sector, where same fuel, which is basically gas converted into liquid, will be utilized by the trucking industry, will be utilized by the light motor vehicles, the KKs and the Okadas that are there in many parts of the country, which are serving the poor's requirement for traveling. So this is the sector that we are foraying into currently.
The company brags has been the first to market LNG in Nigeria and promises to continue to enable Nigeria's industrialization agenda.
Naturally, the fuel situation leads on Business News Tonight. Here's Jeffrey Uzal.
Thanks, Kayode, and welcome to Business News. The federal government has denied approving any increase in the official pump price of petrol for marketers in the country. This was contained in a statement today by the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Mr. Timipri Silva. He explained that the president had not directed the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority or any agency of government to hike fuel price and will not do so without due consultations with the relevant stakeholders. It was reported on Thursday that the federal government sent a directive to the umbrella bodies of oil marketers, informing them to adjust the pump price to 185 naira per litre. Meanwhile, President Buhari has approved the appointment of board and the executive management team of new Ministry of Finance Incorporated, MOFI. The agency's newly approved board will be chaired by Shamsuddin Usman, while its non-executive directors include permanent secretaries, finance and petroleum, accountant general of the Federation, and representatives of the Central Bank of Nigeria. MOFI is a corporation solely vested with the responsibility to manage all federal government investments, interest, estates, easements, and rights. African heads of state and global chief executive officers at the World Economic Forum annual meeting have backed the launch of the first of its kind report on how public-private partnership can support the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement area. The report aims to provide a pathway for global businesses and investors to understand the biggest trends and opportunities, as well as strategies to successfully invest and achieve high returns in Africa, developing value chains and accelerating industrialization. Now, once fully implemented, AFTA will be the 5th largest economy in the world with the potential to have a combined GDP of more than 3.4 trillion naira. Now, outside our shows, Google's parent company Alphabet says it will cut 12,000 jobs in the latest staff redundancies to hit the global tech industry amid fears of imminent recession. This comes days after Microsoft announced 10,000 jobs will be lost and weeks after Amazon announced 18,000 job cuts. In an internal email, Google and Alphabet CEO Sundar Pichai said he took full responsibility for the cut. The job cut will affect 6% of Alphabet's workforce worldwide in the teams including recruitment and engineering. Now, one of the biggest cryptocurrency lenders, Genesis, has filed for bankruptcy in the United States, becoming the latest casualty of the global crypto market meltdown. The company's insolvency is reportedly linked to the bankruptcy of FTX, which went under last November amid allegations of fraud. The firm, which had recently been charged by the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission with illegally selling crypto, listed over 100,000 creditors in a mega bankruptcy filing with aggregate liabilities ranging from $1 to $11 billion. To some company news right here in Nigeria, the board of directors of Pizza Cousins Nigeria has appointed Brian Egan as the company's interim chief finance officer with effect from January the 1st, 2023. In a statement to the Nigerian Exchange Limited, the company says its appointment follows the recent resignation of the former CFO, Zubair Muniat, on December the 31st, 2022. Brian had held the role of CFO of public companies listed in London on the FTSE 250 and other international stock exchanges, including the Nigerian Exchange Limited and Ventures Exchange in Canada. Now, from there, we take a look at the closing performances of the domestic stock market for Friday, and Nini John Mekwa has the details of all the activities.
Thank you so much. Welcome to the Stock Market Report. Well, on this final trading day, the bear is in charge. It seems Thursday's gain was just too slim to be sustained as the all-share index dipped 0.06%. But thankfully, we still have that 52,000 level for the all-share index, as well as the 28 trillion naira for the market cap. Now, for the second time this week, Dangote is driving market sentiment. For Friday, it seems investors feasted on Dangote sugar until it shed 45 kobo from its share price to close at 17 naira and moved around 42.6 million naira in the market. They also eyed Zenith. Zenith also traded about 171 million naira in value. Both of them contributed hugely to that over 200% that was added to volume of trade today. That's why we saw volume of trade at 444 million, while the others are in red. Value 1.68 billion and deals just about 3,000. What a way to end the week. A very choppy week indeed. But let's see what next week holds for investors and the market. That's the Stock Market Report. Amini John Mekwa is back to you.
And that's it on Business News. I'm Jeffrey Uzong. Is back to you, Kayode, for the rest of the news at 10.
Well, thank you, Jeffrey. Several persons, including 2 members of the Benue State House of Assembly, are said to have been injured in an accident which involved the convoy of a state governor, Samuel Ortom. The accident occurred today when the governor and the People's Democratic Party supporters were traveling to Utokun community of Ado local government area in continuation of the party's governorship campaign. Meanwhile, the ambulance attached to the convoy evacuated the injured persons to the hospital, while the rest continued with the trip. And outside of the country, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz is facing mounting pressure to export its highly regarded Leopard tanks to Ukraine. Simon Pusey has this story and more in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz is facing mounting pressure to export its highly regarded Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine. More than 50 countries are meeting at Germany's Ramstein airbase to coordinate arms supplies for Kyiv. Berlin has veto power over any decision to export the tanks, and Chancellor Olaf Scholz's government has appeared reluctant to authorize that for fear of provoking Russia.
I'm truly grateful to all of you for the weapons you have provided. Every unit helps to save our people from terror
In a video message, President Zelensky earlier said Western defense chiefs must provide Ukraine with advanced weapons as a matter of urgency.
Some 50 countries have stepped up to help Ukraine defend itself.
At the meeting, the US Secretary of Defense said countries must dig deeper, while a senior NATO military commander said the tanks were important for Ukraine to be a match for Russia.
And it was General Cavodi that said this, very rightfully so. If you have a tank on the other side opposing you, you better have a tank. So I think it is, in terms of matching what the enemy has, it is important for the Ukrainians. And in terms of their ambition to regain their own territory, what was taken from the Russians, a tank is an important weapon system.
Jacinda Ardern says she has no regrets about her plans to quit as New Zealand leader after a decision that shocked both supporters and critics. It comes a day after she revealed in a speech that she had no more left in the tank. Polls suggest her party has a difficult path for re-election in October. The Prime Minister said she would not openly back any of the likely candidates to replace her. Speaking on Friday outside an airport in Napier, where the Labour Party caucus had gathered for a retreat, Ms Ardern said she had slept well for the first time in a long time.
There's still a range of emotions. So I, of course, feel, sad, but also I do have a sense of relief.
President Emmanuel Macron has promised to boost French defence spending through 2030 so as to adjust to global threats and learn lessons from last year's Russian invasion of Ukraine. The French president said the military budget for 2024 to 2030 would be €400 billion, up from €295 billion. After years of containing military spending, nuclear-armed France began to increase the defence budget in 2017. As a member of NATO, France should spend around 2% of its gross domestic product on defence. But the Russian invasion of Ukraine has raised questions amongst French officials on whether the military could face the challenge of such a high-intensity conflict. Police and protesters have clashed in Peru's capital during the Takeover Lima demonstrations against President Dina Boluarte. Thousands of Peruvians, many from the country's southern mining regions, took over Lima's streets, fired up by over 50 deaths linked to protests since last month. Police shot pellets and tear gas at protesters. The clashes mark the worst violence Peru has seen in over 20 years, as many people in poorer rural regions vent anger at the Lima political elite over inequality and rising prices. Google's parent Alphabet Inc. is eliminating about 12,000 jobs, or 6% of its workforce, in the latest cuts to shake the technology sector. Alphabet's job losses affect teams across the company, including recruiting and some corporate functions, as well as some engineering and production teams. The layoffs are global and impact US staff immediately. The cuts come days after rival Microsoft said it would lay off 10,000 workers. And final preparations are being made around the world for Chinese New Year, which begins this weekend. The Chinese, or Lunar New Year, marks the start of a new lunar year, and this year falls on the 22nd of January. It is celebrated with gifts, fireworks and dragon and lion dances, and culminates on the 15th day with a lantern festival. It is thought to be the largest annual human migration as Chinese people return home to spend time with their families. The festival is also celebrated in many other East Asian countries. A spring festival gala, or Chunwan in Chinese, an annual show broadcast live on TV, radio and social media, will also be shown. The 4-hour-plus gala will present various performances such as singing and dancing, stage comedies, opera, martial arts and acrobatics. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
And that's sports news.
Thank you, Ayotunde. And the main news again. The National Peace Committee today met with presidential candidates of political parties in Abuja and raised concerns over what it described as violations of recent peace accord by some of the parties. They, however, agreed to work towards peaceful general elections. And that's the news at 10 for tonight. What a week it's been. Thank you for watching. I'm Kayode Okikili. Good night.